Okay, we are recording. Welcome to another weekly tech call, dev call, community call. It's become an all of the above call recently. You'll notice that Nick is he's out of town. He's flying back from Florida, spending time with family, and so I'm here again, and we have a special guest appearance from the one and only Brenda. Say hi.
Hi, everybody. Brenda, if you guys haven't or don't know who I am.
Well, they all know who you are. They just don't.
Okay. They never see me. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Well, as the dev on the call, Brenda, do you want to I know there's not much to really update, but do you want to just sort of give a brief update about how things are going on the dev side?
Yeah, so right now I'm currently working on finalizing the test for decreasing the rewards over the years. So that's still going for Tellor core. We're still making progress on the alternate chain implementation, and I think that's pretty much for dev. Like everything is work in progress as of right now. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, we do these things every week, and there's not always going to be a big update on a weekly basis. So, but things
especially
are
on the dev side, yeah.
Yeah. But there is questions every week that we can go over, so we'll just jump into those. Let me pull them up. Okay. We got 22 responses this week. First question is, do you like Elon Musk? I don't know. I like him just fine. I think he's quirky. I think what he's making is cool. Especially the space exploration stuff, SpaceX, more so than Tesla, but I don't know. I think it's good that there's someone out there like Elon Musk doing crazy things. I don't know if he's going to achieve anything that he, says he will, and that new Tesla truck, the Cybertruck, I think is pretty darn hideous, but I don't have anything negative to say about him.
I like him. I like him. I like a little crazy and driven, so I like it.
Yeah, it's good. He's unique, out of the ordinary. Next question is, how's the Tellor Chinese community doing? I would say it's sort of like it's been on hold in terms of growing it because of the coronavirus. We had a couple AMAs set up that got postponed just due to what's going on over there. And the other thing is it's tough to really monitor it because everybody's on. I mean, we have an unofficial Chinese WeChat group that's got like 100 fans in it, and it's all in Chinese. So I check the chat from time to time, and it's just all in Chinese characters. And every once in a while, I'll see the word Brenda like over and over again, and it'll be Brenda meme. So you're really famous over in the Chinese community, Brenda.
Okay, so interesting.
Yeah. But it's been on our plans to lean more into growing that, and we will. But again, a couple of those things got put on hold because of the coronavirus. So we will continue. Thoughts on Hester Pierce's safe harbor proposal? I have to admit that I just did a skim through of the proposal. It sounded good to me. 3 years of sort of safe harbor for token or crypto projects. Being able to build out and not have to worry about being deemed a security and fined and regulated. I think it's a good thing that someone's proposing this. Whether or not it actually becomes a thing is completely a different story, but I think it's nice to see that it's being talked about. I think that's all very positive for the space. Do you have any thoughts, Brenda?
Well, the same. I mean, I like to see people starting to talk about it, and to be honest, that they're living it sort of a little bit up in the edge.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure that when there are rules implemented, that they actually make sense for the state. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Indeed. It was cool to see. Next question, is the Bitcoin halving or the halving priced in? I mean, I don't know. I think the most accurate thing we could do is I could say yes it is, and Brenda could say no it isn't, because that's basically what the consensus is that there is no consensus. I don't know. I would say it is. I mean, if people know it and it's expected and it's scheduled, like it's got to be priced in. But I don't know. Like that's my sort of intuitive look at it. I think Spuddy would have the best answer. So follow his Twitter. How's Tellor's cross-chain coming along?
It's coming along, and we're still working on it. We did put out the initial draft implementation out there. We tried to get feedback, but we already started building it, at least based on those specs. We're working on it.
Yep, that's it's sort of a give and take too with these projects that we're working on this cross-chain piece with, and so it's not always up to us how fast these things progress, but they're progressing just fine, and we don't feel like it's off target for us or anything like that. So we're excited about it. It's pretty much a top priority for us. What are the biggest learnings you've brought to Tellor from Daxia and previous jobs? Do you want to start, Brenda?
Yeah. I think for me has been flexibility and iteration. I mean, when you, at least for me, I used to do a lot of technical software development, and there's never, one design is never just finalized. There's just always improvements or bugs that you find, and you just have to work through them. And you have to have the flexibility and the patience for it. And I think in this space, that's why what's helped me just get through a lot of, the new, programming language and new everything, and sometimes us being literally the first people to ask when something's not working, and trying to figure out how to debug it when we're like the first ones that run into it, or one of the first people that do. So, I mean, there's other stuff I'm sure, but in general, I think the flexibility has helped me the most to be, I guess, happy in the space. I don't know. Yeah.
I could piggyback off of the flexibility thing, because I mean, I guess with Daxia, we learned that not to be afraid to sort of pivot or follow an intuition or follow the market about an idea. And even though we like Daxia, we still like Daxia, and maybe one day it will reemerge, but we never saw the kind of traction we saw with Tellor, and we're seeing with Tellor with Daxia, and it was I guess what I learned is to not be super attached to any one thing, but to sort of focus on I guess the data that you're receiving, the feedback you're receiving, and sort of just make sure you're really in tune. But it's also really hard to compare what was going on with Daxia with Tellor. I mean, Tellor is so much more of a thriving community, and so like it's all been super fresh for me, and I think for everybody at Tellor too. So it's like been a fresh learning experience. And so I guess like my previous work before Daxia, before crypto, I guess I got really comfortable with trying new things. I was a small business owner and entrepreneur, and I did a couple different things, or a few different things. And so I guess I was kind of used to it. Like my background's pretty varied. So switching from Daxia to Tellor wasn't too big of a shock to my system. But I guess my point is that it's actually been a lot of really, really new stuff. And so it's just, we're just learning as we go as best as we can. As a team, what metrics are you tracking? Day to day, week to week, month to month? Brenda?
Well, I don't know. Lots of things, at least for on the dev side, is just trying to get to our milestones and trying to get our products out and, trying to get that switch of code. A lot of times what we do is like, I'll work on a code base for a week, and then, the next week, Nick will work on that code base, and the next week we'll switch. So it's like if we can get to that point, it's always a good thing, because then that means that we're progressing. In terms of, I don't know if you want to talk about community or how to track those things.
Yeah, I mean, like we definitely, there's not that many metrics to really track, I guess, a number of minors and just things that are related to our security, price, those kind of things, just the obvious stuff. But like you were saying with community, like we're very excited about every new member that we get to join our community. And sort of, it's nice to look back on a monthly basis on how much we've grown. When I do the community update blog post, it's nice to see like, oh, we grew by 500 Telegram members and 500 Twitter followers and all this stuff. And so those kind of things are fun to track. Does Mike play the banjo? He seems to like banjo-related nicknames. I do like banjo-related nicknames, and it is because I play the banjo. Nick's been trying to, he's been reminding me to bring, I have 3 banjos, but I could easily bring one here. That's Nick's guitar back there. You can't really see it, but you've seen it before. That way we could sort of jam out here in the office. I don't know if Brenda would be too annoyed by that. But yes, I do play banjo. I play a style of banjo called clawhammer, for those that are interested. People really admire Vitalik, but I've heard it was Joe Lubin's business sense that pushed Ethereum to greatness. Thoughts? I mean, I think it's both. I think Joe Lubin and the early consensus days did a lot of good things with building out things like Infura and stuff that really moved the space forward. And you kind of have to have that. But you could obviously say that without Vitalik being that counterpoint or the other side of the coin or whatever you want to call it, Ethereum wouldn't have that quirky yet trustworthiness that I think Vitalik brings. You kind of need to have that nerdy, geeky, passionate visionary. And then you also have to have that business guy. But if you just have one or the other, it's completely weak. Like I was just saying this morning that if Ethereum was just Joe Lubin, it would feel a little bit less, I don't know, it'd feel more like too businessy or whatever. And I think inherently the community wouldn't like that as much. That's my thought. Anything to add, Brenda?
I agree. I mean, yeah, the fact that he seems like a little machine. It's like that's how I like to see
Vitalik?
yeah,
Like
he's like a little machine,
little android.
Like an android. So
He just gets wound. He has like a big spring in the back. Just
Yeah.
wind him up.
I mean, it's very respectable. I mean, he's very smart. You know, he's going to deliver things, and so they're going to be, you know, honest to the technology. So I think that's very valuable in the space because you can trust it. I feel like I
It's kind of like we're
can.
talking about Elon Musk. He has a little bit of that. He's not quite as eccentric seeming as Vitalik, but he
Mm-hmm.
totally has that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Next
it's
question.
kind of like with Apple's
Okay.
another good. You have Steve Wozniak and you had Steve Jobs. Anyway, um, are more companies approaching Tellor? Any news on more partnerships? I mean, definitely. Obviously, again, I have to be vague. We have to be vague about it. Any partnerships you would know. We would probably have already announced it. I wouldn't wait for a question to make that news known. But we've seen a lot of ramp up in activity, both in community interest, and with community interest also comes project interest. Some people join our community, and they're also on a team. We've had a lot more conversations, I would say, in the last couple of weeks than we've had for a while. So we feel like momentum is there with us, and so we're excited about it. But again, we just want things to be super tangible before we ever make an announcement. Next question. Could you guys create some general marketing materials that we could use to help spread the word? A pitch deck would be helpful in helping for us to give respective other projects, for example. That was a weird sentence, but basically they're asking for a pitch deck to send around. Yeah, we have a couple of you guys have reached out to me about a pitch deck. We have one. It's a little bit more geared towards investors, but I can work on it and make it so it would be good for community members to send that around to projects, more from a user perspective. And in terms of general marketing materials, we have up on our GitHub the brand materials to use for any marketing materials that the community wants to make. And so in terms of other general marketing materials, that's all we have. I guess, I don't know if it's a good time to mention, we're working on, we'll talk about it next week, but it's something called Tellor.fund. I know that the community has mentioned about ways to sort of crowdfund certain things that you guys are interested in us pursuing without having to use like development funds that we wouldn't use anyway. But for little things like marketing materials, those things can really be quite expensive to get them done well. So they're usually the last thing on the priority list to do a poster for this or whatever it is. So that might be a way that we could sort of get the community to sort of generate some of these things with our support. But we'll look at that. If you guys have any ideas about marketing materials, please DM me. Next question. We have a question in the chat from Moon. Have you guys considered implementing Tellor on top of Cosmos? And have you looked at the IBC? Absolutely. We've had a few conversations with Cosmos, and we've applied for their grant fund, the IFC, Interchain Foundation Grant Fund, something like that. So yeah, we have a good relationship with them, and they're one of the people, along with Matic and Harmony, that will be the first that we implement the cross-chain stuff with. So yes, thanks for your question.
Yeah, and one of the things that you guys should keep in mind on is there will we're definitely in talks with other chains to develop on them, but we definitely want to move priorities based on where we can get a user. Like
Yeah.
that's a big for us. So if you guys know of a chain or like can spread the word, so if whoever has the first user, I think that's gonna be like gonna get our resources.
Yeah, it's no small feat. We like to think that we could definitely in a efficient fashion implement on any one of these chains. It's not about that, but it does take a lot of focus, and so it's not like we can implement on all three all at the same time. And so the ones where the users are where we would go, or where we would put our focus. So yeah, let's see here. Any plans on adding a US friendly exchange? No like current plans for that. I mean, I guess you could say that IDEX adding US support has been in the plans, and it's I guess we could say we're sort of on the next step towards that. Like there has been, we're still under review, but we've, I forget what the last communication was with them, but I feel like we've moved on to a next step. Don't quote me on that, but I'm hoping that that comes really soon for IDEX users. And I think that would be probably plenty until we grow to the size where we're on a tier 1 exchange. Any updates on the ADO, the Alliance of Decentralized Oracles? Not since last week, but we have a call with them scheduled tomorrow. So that was our next touch point with them after we spoke at ETH Denver with them, with a few of the members of the ADO. And so we have a follow-up call to discuss next steps with them, which is basically going to cover getting the word out there about the ADO, getting people to, whether it's hackathons or doing some sort of announcement or just spreading the word about it and getting people to implement the ADO. And from a dev side, there's a couple things that we need to still do with, as a group. And, for any of you guys that have ever put together a group of teams, it can be slow and it's like herding cats sometimes, but I think it's for a really good cause. I think the ADO can be a big player in the future as a group. So we shall see, and we'll keep you guys updated. A few calls back, somebody mentioned connecting you with Tezos. Has there been any follow-up? No follow-up. No one has connected us with Tezos, but we're looking at it. We're looking at applying to their grant fund. We're always looking for grants that are open and something that we feel like we could be awarded. Have we proactively contacted the SEC regarding tributes? Brenda, have you talked to the SEC?
No.
On your hotline?
No, I don't think I plan to, but we'll see,
Yeah. Yeah, no, we have not. I don't know if that would be the way to do things or whatever. We're not, we think we're pretty good in that regard.
Yeah.
Is TellorScan getting an overhaul? We hope so. We plan for sure. Again, it's about where we're focusing right now, and so focusing on getting users and those things are important, and then sort of quality of life stuff on TellorScan are next. But we're definitely talking about it. We're looking at. We've reached out to a couple of developers that we actually think would be really great to help us out with TellorScan earlier this week. So we would like it to just be, it's basically the same as it was when we were in Binance Labs and building it then. And so it was a great, I guess, MVP. And I think Tellor's come a long way since those days. And it'd be nice to just give it a nice facelift and help it, be more functional. So that would be, it's a definitely important thing for us. Did you guys enjoy college or find it to be a waste of time? Did you party a lot in college, Brenda?
I enjoyed college. I did not find it to be a waste of time, but I think that there are some things that you can do without college. There's a lot of self-learning even now in this space. A lot of the things that I've learned, I did not, or that I actually do now, I did not learn in college. I didn't really actually start getting really good into coding until I actually started working and developing, actually working and developing statistical software. So I learned on the job, and there was a lot of self-learning. Even now with, everything that I now do in Solidity, there was a lot of self-learning. I was lucky enough to have a good mentor. Nick had already done some of it, so it was easy to have somebody to go and ask questions, but still a lot of self-learning. Whether or not that was a waste of time, I don't think it was for me, but hey, I don't know.
And definitely, hopefully not grad school, which I guess counts as.
Yeah, especially because it was so expensive. So
yeah.
definitely
Grad school
not.
better not be a waste of time at that point.
Yeah.
I would say it wasn't a waste of time for me, but I think what I got out of college, you could get out of something other than college. You don't have to pay tuition for what I feel like I got out of college, which was basically life experiences and a close-knit group of friends that I'm still friends with, 15 years later, 20 years later. And so can you say that was a waste of time? No, but from a tuition standpoint, and did you learn something? And do I remember what I learned in class, and do I use it on a daily basis? No, not at all. So. Do you like flash loans? And do you think flash loan attacks are coming to some of these flash loan staking attacks are coming to some of these new proof of stake blockchains? I mean, I don't know with flash loan staking attack. I don't even know what a flash loan staking attack is. However, I think flash loans are pretty cool sounding. I think it's kind of neat what you can do in one single transaction. However, I think DeFi as a whole needs to slow down. I think like flash loans is an example of like trying to do too much too quick. I don't know, and I just think it leads to disaster. I think Tellor's sort of stance in this is like, let's slow down DeFi. Let's be really secure and safe with this stuff and decentralized with this stuff and simpler. So I'm a fan of that. But of course, when you see like what a flash loan can do, and it's of course you're going to say, "Oh, that's actually pretty cool. It's a cool idea." So, I don't know. That's how I feel about it. Do you have a thought on flash loans?
I guess for staking, I could see how that would be an attack. I would do, or even like for voting, like you vote and then you go and do a flash loan of TRB and then come and vote again. I don't know how that would work, but I could see that being a little dangerous.
It's like the more that these things get complicated, the harder it is to predict the attack vector or whatever. Like, it just gets more confusing. And I always think it's amazing when people like contemplate ways to game these things.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's
So,
something is
but
simple, it's easy to understand it's easy to see errors. It's easy to see weaknesses if it's simple. I think we should err on that side. Is Aragon a futile experiment and other decentralized quartz attempts? I I would say there is no futile experiment in this. I think as long as funds are safe, safu, then if no one's harmed, like I think this whole space is one big experiment, and we're learning about what you can do with these with a DAO. And I think decentralized court systems are really sound really neat. I really don't know how well they function or how well Aragon is doing. So again, I even if it's a failure, I wouldn't say it's futile. I think everybody's learning so much from this stuff. So more power to them.
yeah.
Any thoughts on staking derivatives? I mean, I guess I would have to. Could you be more specific?
Yeah, I don't know. Do we have a lot more questions?
Just 3 more or 4 more.
Okay.
Any plans to push the bounties program more?
We're always pushing it, guys. It's there.
Yeah, I mean, at least from our perspective, we feel like no one's
Yeah.
taking us up on some of these bounties. So do you mean advertise it more? In which case we could do probably a better job at making people aware of those bounties program. But we would hope that more people are jumping at the chance for them. I think that they're all pretty generous.
And one of the main things with that is that we really wanted for the community to take them. We don't want to hire a contractor. We could have just done
That's
that.
a really good point.
We really wanted to be, to create a network of community builders, devs that are actually, contributing to us, not just hiring a contractor.
Yeah.
So.
That's the real answer. If we push these more, like, you could find a contractor to take up his bounty if we, blasted it out. But hey, Brenda, what conversations have you had in the last week regarding Tellor that has you most excited?
Okay. To be honest, within the last week, I don't think I've had a conversation, but I do see a lot of conversations that we're having on Telegram. Specifically, the ones that excite me the most is when projects are actually ready to implement us or launch us. And there's one in particular that, again, like when we actually have something that is a real partnership that they're actually using us, we'll announce. But at least this week, there was one that they're like ready to launch, they're like implemented. So it's like, that one was pretty exciting to me because it's like, we really want to be able to make those partnerships be a partnership where we actually are being used.
Cool. This last week, one of the hottest topics in crypto is governance. Chain splits have severely divided great communities. Tellor is proof of work, open source, and risks forking. What are your thoughts on hybrid proof of work, proof of stake models like Decred, where it's 60% miners, 30% holders, and 10% the treasury? I could see that working well here with a sort of 60-30, 5-5 dev share treasury split. More secure, more decentralized, undivided, and everyone wins. I personally love the sound of that.
We're open to evolving. Nothing that we're doing set on stone. I think we're all trying to grow and trying to go into the direction that makes sense for the space. So we'll definitely consider that or any other structure. And eventually, we do believe in decentralization, and that includes sort of removing us. In terms of working, we feel that we still provide the community a lot of value. Tellor itself, because we're actually the ones doing the development, doing the updates, doing the upgrades, and coming up with improvements to even our own system and looking for those customers. But
Mhm.
we're definitely open to being more decentralized and making sure that the community feels comfortable with what we're doing.
And hopefully we'll see a little bit more of that with the cross-chain implementation stuff with being a proof of stake thing, where you get more of the holders of our coin or taking part in those sidechain networks, and they're staking their tributes, and you sort of decentralize that way. Yeah, I mean, I think it's good that we started off with proof of work, and we have that very unique group of people that that we initially distributed to, as opposed to starting off with a proof of stake. And we've talked about this before, of why proof of work for Tellor. And I think that is a good foundation that we can sort of move more towards something like this, as we see fit. Last two questions. One is, would it help Tellor if you moved to SF? I don't know. I think we'd be we'd be broke if we lived in SF. We wouldn't have lasted this far just because of paying rent and housing. It's like one of the most expensive cities in the world. So I don't know. What do you think, Brenda?
Yeah, no, I don't think that's, I mean, we do travel and we go to conferences. I don't think that there's a lot of stuff that we can do in the space, um, remotely. And I think we just try and take advantage of that. And whenever we can, we travel and we meet as many people as we can in the community. So I don't think that physically paying the prices of San Francisco is gonna give us all the boost that we need. So I agree with Mike.
Yeah. It's this is a kind of a new time and a new era, and I guess in startup companies, and where you don't have to follow that script of going out to SF or Silicon Valley or whatever it is. You could start up anywhere. You could have a team that's completely separated and all virtual, and international, and do quite well. I mean, our community isn't in San Francisco. They're all over the world. They're on Twitter, and our investors are all in Twitter. So, you know what I mean? So it's just not the same storyline where you have to go out to SF to do better. We've met all those people. We meet all these people that are out there anyway. So, yeah, I don't think it really matters too much where you are. Spuddy asked in the chat, people ask about 51% attack risk and forking, but I don't think these things are possible with Tellor the way it's a risk on other proof of work altcoins, right? Because we have the dispute system and such. I mean, yeah, you could grieve the system. That's sort of because we have a dispute system, and because our users could always just take the price from the next block. A 51% attack would just be for a period of time, and so it would be the cost to break it isn't just that one moment, it's that over a series of blocks. And so how long that person wants to go ahead and sort of grieve the system is up to them. It's much more expensive that way. So yeah, we think that the dispute mechanism really sort of covers our bases there.
I mean, it's better. It's better.
Last question, how did you all meet? So, well, Nick isn't here, but I met Brenda here at this office back in the Dexia days. Yeah. I started.
And how'd you meet Nick?
Yeah. I met Nick at so we're in Frederick, Maryland here, and it's a really small town. And Nick was running a local Bitcoin meetup, and this was in 2017. And so this Bitcoin meetup was actually quite happening. Like there were people there, and it was like every couple of weeks we'd have one. It would be a happy hour, or someone would give a talk about how to mine, how to set up a mining rig, or whatever it is. And I went to one of them, and Nick was leading it, talking about Ethereum. And it was a packed house for a very small town crypto meetup. So yeah, that's how I met him, and I asked him. I had like a question about using smart contracts for an idea I had, and so we went and grabbed a beer, and I found out that he was a developer, and that he was starting an idea, and he was getting an office downtown, which is now this office. And I just started. I started to come out and help him out. That's how that happened, and that's how I met Brenda as well. How did you meet Nick?
We used to work together like 10 years ago, however many years ago, and I actually used to be his supervisor. So,
You were his boss.
Yeah, I used to manage. Yeah. Anyway, but
Did you
he
have to
was always
micromanage? Did you have to micromanage?
never.
Never?
That's one of the reasons it was so
Did he
easy
show up
for
late?
me to know. He would show up after me because I was like at 6 a.m. in my office, and I think he was like at 7 a.m. But it was super easy to work with him, and I think that's one of the reasons, he pretty much brought me into the space, and we continue to work together because it was easy to work together. But yeah.
Well, that is it. That's all the questions. Thanks again, guys, for submitting these. I think this has been a successful addition to these calls, these responses. So yeah, until next week, Nick will be back. Let us know if you have any follow-up questions, and hit us up on Telegram.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.